the question, and we have your bio posted on the PYM website. But just for the recording, if you could also introduce yourself briefly.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And the question is, I mean, I'm most curious at the top of just what you've been working on, what you've been called to most recently, maybe what led to that, and how that's being bolstered or hampered in the context of the pandemic and the world around us coming awake to America's racial justice needs.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Awesome. So my name is Dwight Dunston, a.k.a. Sterling Duns. I'm a musician, artist, activist, healer, based in West Philadelphia, Quaker. Maybe that might not go without saying, but also member of Marian Meeting, and educator, and yeah, I think a lot about. You'll remix some of this, right?
Yeah.
Dwight Dunston, Sterling Duns, artist, educator, facilitator, activist, healer, Quaker, and I do a lot of work. My work out in the world in two main ways. I've been the coordinator of equity and justice education at Friend Central School for the last 3 years, and I am also in a music group called City Love, and we like to say that we make music for the world we need, the world we envision, and bring that into schools and community centers, really whoever will have us. We just love to play our songs and use them as primers for conversations about racial justice, about equity, about being upstanders, fairness. And most recently, we've been doing that with 3-year-olds to 10-year-olds through our children's album, The Future is Bright. Really, really engaging in conversations with the youngest folks in our world, through song. And I have 2 amazing collaborators there, Imani and Caselli. We like to say, if you can imagine like Kendrick Lamar and Jack Johnson and Lauryn Hill as your kindergarten teachers, that's sort of what it looks like. And yeah, it's been an incredible journey to have conversations about race and racism and racial justice with young people through song and through reflection on our songs. So in this time, I'm feeling, most called to support folks in being healed, finding healing and wholeness in themselves and community through this uprising. I think you can't live in this world currently, specifically this country, and not understand that you have a racial identity. It's I think we're being called to really have these questions, or to have these conversations, and to bring into question what it means to have a racial identity in the context of the United States of America in 2020. And I really feel like our young people are really watching the grown-ups to see how they engage in these conversations, how they step into them, how they treat one another in these conversations. And it feels really important to me whenever I think of this work. I have my niece really at my heart. She's 10 years old, and I think a lot about how is she watching me engage in what's going on in the world. And so a lot of the impetus for my work really roots in supporting folks to be healed. And it's a really hard thing when there's a wound, you know, to really support and facilitate healing. And I know, at least in my work, I also do some facilitation with an organization called Lion Story, which supports folks to develop skills and tools and techniques, what we call racial literacy, having the ability to monitor and be aware of the stress that one feels in racially stressful encounters. So I do work there and supporting different organizations. And part of my work feels like helping folks to develop the tools, skills, and techniques to be in their bodies, stay in their bodies in these conversations around race, which for so long have just been so disembodied, right? You know, these things, racism happens in bodies, it happens on bodies, you know, and what we've been seeing is the outrage and the real pushing back against harm done to Black bodies. And so we a lot of what the news depicts is the ways that Black bodies respond to the harm that's being put on them, but there's also things occurring in white bodies, you know, the traumas and the hurts so how do you know, really think about how do I support white folks, white bodies to stay in their bodies while they're experiencing those things, and anybody really, Black, Indigenous, people of color, white folks, you know, we're all experiencing these things in our bodies. So I really just want to support folks to be healed in their bodies, to really feel the things that are happening in their bodies, and believing that helps them connect more with other people, other bodies. So usually I'll be able to do that in person in a room, you know, but and we've had to, you know, remix and move online to platforms like this, to Zoom, with our music concerts or with some facilitation. And it's been, you know, my if I had a choice, I would want to be in person, and that's not an option in this moment. And I've been really grateful for the opportunities virtually to build community and to really share music and help folks to develop some of these tools and skills. And I've been, honestly, early on, I've now seen it happen enough times to really trust it, but I was surprised early on that it still can be impactful. It still can be transformative, to play songs and have folks reflect on them, or to lead folks through a workshop where they're really diving deep into some of the things happening in their bodies while having conversations or remembering racially stressful encounters, you know, supporting them through that. So it's been both a hindrance in some ways, but really a real opportunity to help to spread the music and spread these tools more nationally.
Yeah, I think we've all benefited from your leadership and ministry over several years now that you've been up to the work, and the work has changed and stayed the same. You know, PYM has been through its stuff, and is still going through, I think, the impact of organizational conflict and the need for further healing, and also greater accountability. Anyway, I'm curious if there's anything about any of that you might want to share too.
Yeah, and there's I've been sort of tangentially or you know, a few degrees away from some of the conversations in healing and, you know, transformative moments that have been occurring at PYM. And certainly, know that there's been parts that have been easier to move through and parts that have been harder to move through. And I think the only thing I'll say is that really having true accountability, like transformative accountability that's rooted in love but is not dismissive or lets folks off the hook, but is like, we love you to bring this thing to your attention. We need to be heard in these ways, and this is the way that I need to be heard in this moment. So there might be anger or rage or sadness coming out, and really asking folks, or an organization which is made up of folks, to hold that and to really walk with one another to the other side. It's just a radical thing, and we don't have systems in, it's not prevalent transformative accountability systems aren't prevalent. And so we have like lots of different examples to look to, right? We're like, we got some examples, and then they get covered by all these nasty examples of processes that are punitive, that are that look to, that actually recreate harm, over and over again. And so I just am grateful for the ways that the process has been messy, has been effective, and will continue to be. And I just really have hope that, if we're rooted in, the question I often ask in conflict or in these processes is, how do we remember one another's humanity as we walk this path, towards accountability? It's a hard thing to do, so from what I've witnessed, I'm just really appreciating folks' ability to hold on to that. And it'll be messy, so.
Well, thanks for taking time to share about your story and other thoughts. I'm curious if there's anything else that you wanted to share about yourself or your journey as we prepare for the July 25th plenary session and the panel discussion coming up.
Yeah, I'm thinking about, we started this conversation, you shared, just exploring, thinking about ancestry and history. And I've just been thinking a lot about that too, and thinking historically, my family, like getting more interested in my family's history and what we know of it, which I was surprised that there was more than I knew that we knew, and that's just been an amazing journey. And I've also been really thinking about the world that I would like to leave behind for future generations, whether they're my own flesh and blood or not. I feel like we're all really just thinking about future generations, family, blood, and chosen. And so just I guess holding out. This feels like the most, though there's so much just hurt and harm and sickness and death and confusion around us. This also feels for me one of the most hopeful times in my life. And so what does it mean to, I think a lot about, and this was the theme for FGC, but this idea of a seed, planting a seed. What seeds are we planting right now that will grow in the future? That we might not see them grow to the full, their full life. But I just think a lot about planting seeds. So I've been, thinking about ancestors, thinking about planting seeds for the future, and invite others to perhaps consider those things as well.
Yeah, that like deeply felt spiritual responsibility.
which for me definitely feels connected to my Quaker faith. Yeah, being this deep, like love is a seed I try to plant, and cultivate every day. And hope, and that comes very much from, believing that there's that of God, there's light in everyone, and what does it mean to really embody that, to really honor that light that was cultivated and steward from past generations, and to do all I can to support the thriving of that light in future generations. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Which is like, it's so hopeful because it helps know that whatever we don't get to, we'll leave to those who come after us.
Mm-hmm.
That it's a multi-generational project.
Yep. And like, newsflash, my bad, we're not gonna get to everything, like in this. It's just not gonna happen, it's like I'm thinking about my room, like I forgot to clean something this week, and I was just like, well, didn't get to, it's just like, we're not gonna be able to. I did some other things though, I like mop downstairs, but
Right.
We're just not gonna get to everything on the list, and I think that's okay. We can love ourselves, and be gentle with ourselves around that too.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. But it doesn't give us a pass. We still have to work.
Right. Doesn't give us a pass. Right. It's both, it's
Both hand.
both and.
Well, great. I feel like that's a great place to put a bookend on our combo till we pick it up again next week.